When history books tell the story of World War II, the spotlight often falls on the soldiers who stormed beaches, the generals who commanded armies, and the political leaders who shaped global strategy. But sometimes victory hinges not just on the bravery of men in uniform or the genius of a tactician, but on the ingenuity of a stubborn inventor with a vision. One such man was Andrew Jackson Higgins, a shipbuilder from New Orleans who never set foot on a battlefield, yet whose contribution to the war effort was so critical that General Dwight D. Eisenhower, Supreme Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force, famously said about Higgins, born in 1886 in Columbus, Nebraska, Higgins was a fiercely independent businessman who made his fortune building shallow draft boats for loggers and oilmen, navigating the swamps and marshes of the American South. These boats needed to be agile, tough, and able to run up on sandbars or through thick reeds without bogging down, traits that would later prove vital in wartime. As global tensions rose in the late 1930s and the United States began preparing for possible involvement in World War II, Higgins realized that the military's existing landing craft designs were woefully inadequate. The Navy and Marine Corps were relying on clunky boats that forced soldiers to jump over the sides, a death sentence under enemy fire. Higgins had a better idea, inspired partly by Japanese ramp-boat boats seen in China. Higgins' solution was the landing craft, vehicle personnel, now known simply as the Higgins boat. Flat-bottomed, steel-ramped, and constructed of plywood with a reinforced steel frame, the Higgins boat could carry a platoon of 36 troops, a jeep, and a squad, or over 8,000 pounds of cargo. Most importantly, it featured a drop-down bow ramp, allowing troops to rush directly onto the beach. The boat was built to operate in just 3 feet of water, could be launched from larger ships, and was simple enough to be mass-produced quickly and cheaply. What looked like a humble wooden boat would soon become the tip of the Allied spear in every major amphibious assault. Once the U.S. entered the war, Higgins rapidly expanded his operations. By 1943, Higgins Industries employed over 30,000 workers, producing thousands of landing craft, PT boats, and support vessels. Operating nonstop, the factories built over 20,000 Higgins boats by war's end, crucial in assaults from North Africa to Normandy and the Pacific. Beyond innovation in design, Higgins' workforce was as revolutionary as his boats. He actively integrated his factories, employing women, African Americans, and other minorities at a time when segregation was widespread, paving the way for social progress alongside military success. Perhaps the most iconic moment for the Higgins boat came on June 6, 1944, D-Day. In the pre-dawn hours, thousands of Higgins boats splashed into the cold waters of the English Channel, each carrying soldiers from the U.S., Britain, and Canada toward the heavily fortified beaches of Normandy. Many of the most famous photographs and film footage from D-Day, soldiers charging off ramps into waist-deep water, bullets slicing through the air, are images of men stepping off a Higgins boat. But this was just one chapter. Higgins boats were used in every theater of war, making amphibious warfare not only possible but effective. They allowed the Allies to strike where the enemy was weakest, bypass fortresses, and deliver rapid, mobile, overwhelming force on hostile shores. Despite his enormous contributions, Higgins wasn't always popular with the military brass. He frequently clashed with Navy officials over designs, contracts, and production delays. His fiery personality and disdain for bureaucracy made him a controversial figure, but ultimately, his relentless drive ensured the success of the landing craft program and saved countless lives. He famously bet against the Navy's prototype landing craft and offered to prove his boat was superior. In a dramatic head-to-head test on Lake Pontchartrain, his landing craft vehicle, personnel boat, outperformed the Navy's design. This victory secured approval for full-scale production, changing the course of amphibious warfare forever. Andrew Higgins passed away in 1952, but his legacy lives on. His boats reshaped modern warfare and made it possible for Allied forces to fight and win a global war across oceans. Today, a replica Luckhoff's is on display at the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, a fitting tribute to a man who turned a regional shipyard into one of the war's most critical industrial powerhouses. Another Higgins boat stands as a silent sentinel outside the Utah Beach Museum in Normandy, just yards from where the first waves of American soldiers landed on D-Day. With its bow ramp lowered, nestled among sand and seagrass, it vividly recalls the critical role these crafts played in liberating Europe, carrying the 4th Infantry Division ashore and paving the road to victory. Long before the ramp was lowered on D-Day, Andrew Higgins toiled in his shipyard, crafting innovative landing crafts that would change amphibious warfare forever. His designs were revolutionary, blending speed, durability, and practicality, enabling Allied forces to storm beaches that were once thought impregnable. So the next time you see those haunting images of troops landing under fire, remember the man behind the ramp, the man who helped carry an army across oceans and into victory.